Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Pod, the channel where we make learning English fun. In this series, we break down key words, slang, idioms, and cultural references from each episode of Sex and the City to help you naturally improve your English. Watch our videos either before or after you enjoy the episode to boost your understanding and language skills. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Let's dive in.
So shall we start with the vocabulary?
Let's do it. First word up is escort.
Ah, yes, escort. This pops up quite significantly when Carrie learns about Amelita's profession.
Right, so an escort is someone paid for their company, socially.
Mm.
And sometimes, well, that includes romance or sex.
Yeah, and the show presents it initially with this sort of glamorous sheen through Amelita, right? But then Carrie starts questioning it.
The power dynamics involved.
Exactly. It makes you, the viewer, maybe think about the transaction underneath the surface.
Which actually leads nicely to our next word, lavish.
Oh, definitely lavish. Remember Carrie's big night out with the French architect?
How could you forget? Everything was so over the top, rich, luxurious, extravagant is the perfect word, lavish.
The fancy restaurant, the expensive hotel, it's such a stark contrast to Carrie's usual life.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, what's the point of all that lavishness so early on?
Is it genuine? Is it something else?
Which ties into manipulative.
Uh,
Carrie actually wonders about herself, doesn't she?
she does, that internal monologue.
Yeah, thinking if using her charm, to get free dinners or whatever, if that's being manipulative. Unfairly controlling someone.
It's a really interesting kind of gray area the show explores. What's charm and what's manipulation? Where's the line?
And it doesn't really give a simple answer. It pushes you to think about it.
Right. And this internal struggle, this worry about being maybe manipulative, connects to the idea of what's considered taboo.
Taboo. Things that are just not done or frowned upon by society.
And the women have that really frank chat about it, don't they? About using sexuality maybe for financial gain?
Yeah. It's like they're discussing unwritten rules, things you're not supposed to talk about, let alone do.
And the episode is quite clever, I think, in highlighting the double standards. Some exchanges in relationships are fine, expected even.
Yeah.
But others, especially if money is directly involved for, say, company that carries a big social stigma, it's taboo.
Which brings us straight to transaction.
The core of it, really.
Carrie flat out asks herself, was that evening with the architect real romance, or was it just a transaction, an exchange, her company for his cash, basically?
That's the nail on the head for that storyline, isn't it? The central question.
Yeah. It forces you to think about all the unspoken deals in relationships, expectations.
And how that bumps up against our own morals.
Morals, our personal compass for right and wrong. Carrie really struggles with whether taking those lavish gifts compromises her, her integrity.
It's a relatable conflict, even if the context is heightened. That internal debate mirrors how society often feels uncomfortable discussing money and relationships so openly.
Definitely. And then when the whole thing doesn't end like she maybe fantasized, being kept or whatever, she feels disillusioned.
Disillusioned. Yeah, disappointed because reality didn't match the perhaps unspoken expectation.
That gap between the fantasy and the morning after, it's quite poignant.
It really is. And it also makes Carrie think about feminine wiles.
Ah, feminine wiles.
Yeah.
Those sort of subtle, maybe stereotypical tactics women might use to influence men. She wonders if that's a form of power.
And the show presents it in a complex way, not just as negative. Maybe as a tool women have or are perceived to have in dating.
Right. It's all part of those power dynamics again. But then you have Miranda.
Always bringing the pragmatism.
Totally. She uses the word shallow.
Yeah.
Complaining about men in New York just being shallow, focused only on looks or surface stuff, lacking depth.
Miranda's perspective offers a good counterpoint, doesn't it? It's a different kind of dating dissatisfaction compared to Carrie's very specific situation.
Yeah, it grounds the conversation a bit. And lastly, for vocab, we have materialistic.
Which is kind of embodied by Amelita, or at least how Carrie perceives her initially.
Right, that focus on stuff, on luxury, possessions, being materialistic.
Yeah.
It contrasts sharply with Carrie's writerly, maybe more bohemian life.
It highlights different values, different motivations people might have. Okay, that covers some really key words.
Yeah, that was quite a bit.
Ready to tackle some phrases?
Let's do it. Phrasal verbs and common expressions. Where should we start?
How about live it up?
Oh, perfect for Amelita.
Uh,
She is the definition of living it up, right? Traveling, luxury hotels, enjoying life extravagantly.
and usually, in her case, thanks to wealthy benefactors. That's the implication.
Yeah, and Carrie gets a taste of that when the architect picks up the tab.
Simple phrase. Pick up the tab just means pay the bill.
But Carrie's surprise really says something, doesn't it? Like, wow, he just paid for all of that without blinking. It's not her usual experience.
Not at all. And as she's processing Amelita's lifestyle, she's trying to wrap her head around it.
Good one. Wrap your head around. Something just means trying to understand something difficult or confusing.
Yeah, Amelita's choices are so different from her own. It challenges Carrie's whole worldview, really.
And while she's in that world, even briefly, she worries about how she might come across as.
Come across as how you appear to other.
She's worried she'll seem like a gold digger, basically. That she'll come across as someone only after money, just by being there and accepting things.
It's about perception, managing how others see you in that kind of situation.
Which connects later to her feeling that maybe she was taken for a ride.
Oof, yeah. Take someone for a ride, meaning to deceive them, cheat them, use them.
She feels used, like his generosity wasn't genuine affection, just part of the deal.
And that feeling of being exploited, it links back to what the women discussed earlier about how society tends to look down on certain women.
Right, to look down on someone, to see them as inferior, to judge them negatively.
They talk about how women who date for money or security are often viewed with disapproval.
But it's complicated, because despite feeling maybe used, Carrie admits she almost fell for the guy.
Fall for someone develop romantic feelings. It shows how messy emotions are.
Totally. Even in a situation that seemed potentially transactional, real feelings could still creep in.
It underlines that human connection is complex, intentions and feelings get tangled.
And then, after he just leaves money and disappears, her sarcastic thought about him wanting to make it up to her later.
Yeah, make it up to someone, doing something good to compensate for doing something bad. Her sarcasm just highlights how empty the whole exchange felt in the end.
Looking back at the whole evening, Carrie kind of just goes along with Emelita's plan, doesn't she?
Right. To go along with something you agree or participate, but maybe without full enthusiasm or agreement.
Yeah.
You can feel Carrie's hesitation.
Yeah, she's not really driving it, she's observing.
Which leads to the last phrase, play along.
Ah, yes. Even when she's all dressed up at those fancy places, there's a sense she's just playing along.
Pretending to fit in, pretending to enjoy it maybe more than she is, while internally she's still processing, still skeptical.
Exactly. Keeping up appearances.
So yeah, those words, those phrases, they really do map out the episode's themes.
They absolutely do. Understanding escort, lavish, transaction, or phrases like pick up the tab, take for a ride, live it up. It gives you much sharper tools to analyze what the episode is really getting at.
Okay, let's unpack the cultural side of things first. One of the first things that jumps out is how the episode uses brand names and locations like instant clues, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It's a really efficient way to establish a character's world, sort of how they move through it. Well, take Ameluda, for instance. When she's talking to Carrie and casually mentions her Balenciaga shoes.
Oh, right. Aren't they fabulous? Balenciaga. Such a quick remark.
Exactly. But what's interesting, as your materials point out, is that just dropping that name Balenciaga immediately signals a certain level of, well, wealth and immersion in high fashion.
You instantly get a sense of her priorities, her lifestyle.
Yeah, you do. It's a form of cultural shorthand, really. The casualness, the way she drops the name without needing to explain it, that just underscores her effortless immersion in this, like, ultra high-end world.
Contrasting maybe with Carrie's relationship to fashion.
Perhaps, yeah. More aspirational for Carrie. And then Amelita mentions staying at a luxury hotel in Soho with her latest friend.
Ah, Soho, south of Houston Street. That's not just any neighborhood in Manhattan, is it?
No, it's this real hub for trends, known for its art scene, designer shops, and, let's be honest, some seriously expensive real estate.
Right, so for Amelita to offhandedly mention her fabulous hotel suite in Soho, like your notes say, it just speaks volumes about her status.
Totally. A very chic, cosmopolitan way of living. You get this immediate picture of someone right in the middle of what's considered cool and upscale.
And it keeps going, doesn't it? When Carrie mentions Amelita being put up at the Four Seasons by some wealthy guy.
The Four Seasons.
I mean, that's not just any hotel. It's a globally recognized symbol of, like, top-tier luxury.
Absolutely. So when Amelita says he's putting me up at the Four Seasons, it's not just about having a place to sleep, is it?
no way. It screams wealth,
Yeah.
exclusivity, being completely taken care of.
It tells you a lot about the power dynamic in that relationship, definitely. Paints a very clear picture very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And even when Emelita compliments Carrie's outfit and suggests she try something from Dolce & Gabbana.
Dolce & Gabbana. Okay, another big Italian fashion name. Your insights mention that wearing D&G is associated with glamour and being really sort of fashion savvy.
Right, so when Emelita pulls Carrie into a boutique saying, you need to try the new Dolce & Gabbana, it's divine, it's almost her trying to bring Carrie into her world.
Her world of high fashion and, well, luxury spending.
Which connects to that whole idea of high-end boutique culture we see in that scene, doesn't it?
Yeah, tell me about that.
It's not just about buying clothes. It's this exclusive realm of designer, sometimes custom pieces, and, as your material notes, luxury is just readily available to the wealthy. Sometimes they're serving champagne while you browse.
Wow. It's a whole different world of shopping.
Definitely.
And then we get a peek into Carrie's own ambitions, right? With the mention of the New Yorker.
Yes, exactly. When Carrie wonders whether getting published in the New Yorker is more fulfilling than, getting free designer dresses.
And the New Yorker isn't just any magazine.
Not at all. It's a really prestigious American publication known for its in-depth journalism, fiction, sharp cultural commentary. Getting published there is a real marker of literary achievement.
Right. So that's a different kind of status.
A totally different kind of status and success compared to just material wealth. It really highlights that internal conflict for Carrie, doesn't it?
Yeah, that tension between the superficial allure of the city and maybe her deeper intellectual or creative desires. Okay, now let's shift a bit to the relationships and social dynamics the episode explores. The terms gold digger and sugar daddy come up. Those are definitely loaded terms.
Absolutely. Loaded with cultural baggage. When Carrie reflects on whether she's acting like a gold digger for accepting expensive gifts and hotel stays.
Your notes explain that gold digger is, well, it's a negative term, usually aimed at a woman, who gets into relationships mainly for financial gain.
Right. And Carrie's internal question, was I being a gold digger? After getting that dress, it reveals the social disapproval attached to it.
And brings up those bigger questions about gender and power in relationships.
Exactly. And then looking at the other side, we have the sugar daddy dynamic, which is clearly part of Emelita's lifestyle. She's supported by older, wealthy men.
Yeah.
And the material you provided correctly points out that this kind of arrangement is often controversial. And again, it highlights those complex gender and power dynamics in dating.
It makes you think about the nature of transactional relationships, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And then there's Carrie's brief encounter with the architect from France. Your analysis calls this a trope.
Ah, the charming European lover.
Exactly. Often portrayed as sophisticated, worldly.
What's fascinating there, I think, is how that stereotype reflects certain cultural fantasies we might have about romance and elegance.
Totally. The French accent, the nice suit, the spending.
Yeah.
It all plays into this pre-existing idea.
Until he disappears, of course.
Right. And the fantasy bursts, leaving Carrie and maybe us with a bit of a reality check.
Definitely a reality check. And just before I move on to the grammar side, there's one more cultural reference. Amelita's trip to Paris and staying at the Hotel Plaza Athene.
Ah, yes. When she boasts, he flew me to Paris, darling Plaza Athene, of course.
Right.
The Hotel Plaza Athene in Paris isn't just any hotel. It's legendary. It really symbolizes that old world, luxury, romantic getaways.
It just adds another layer to the picture of Amelita's really opulent, travel-filled life.
Precisely.
Okay, so that's a really rich layer of cultural understanding packed into just one episode. Wow.
It is, isn't it?
Now, let's switch our focus to the underlying language structures, the grammar that really enhance the way the story is told. It's amazing how understanding these points can actually give you a deeper appreciation for how English is used even in casual chat.
Absolutely. The grammar isn't just, correct. It's often used in very intentional ways to create specific effects. Let's start by looking at how the past perfect tense is used.
Okay, past perfect. Your notes give an example from Carrie's narration. I had just finished writing my column when Amelita called. So what's significant about using had just finished?
Well, it clearly establishes the order of events. The finishing the column happened before Amelita's call. It's a way to provide that timeline, that background.
Right.
There's another example. I had already seen that look in her eyes she was up to something. Same idea. The seeing happened before the realization.
Okay.
And using had just finished also creates this sense of immediacy, like highlighting the interruption of Carrie's personal time by Amelita's call. It subtly foreshadows the disruptive nature of their interactions, maybe.
Ah, that makes perfect sense for pacing the story. Now, what about this causative form? Have it something done. Sounds a bit technical.
It does, but it's something we use constantly without thinking. It just means arranging for someone else to do something for you.
Okay.
Amelita's line, "I had my hair done this morning," is a perfect example. She didn't do her own hair. She went to a pro.
Gotcha. Like, she had the concierge book the table.
Exactly. Someone else performed the action on her behalf. It builds on that idea of indirect action.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Causing an action, but not doing it yourself. Now, the episode also touches on hypothetical situations, and the grammar there is really interesting.
Yes, we see examples of conditionals, specifically the second conditional. Carrie wonders, if I were that kind of woman, would I take the dress?
And what's important there is the were with I, right? If I were.
Precisely. Notice how Carrie uses were. This slightly more formal were signals she's stepping outside her reality, considering a hypothetical scenario. It adds this layer of self-awareness to her internal monologue.
That's the subjunctive mood, isn't it? Your notes mention that. It's used for wishes, hypotheticals.
Exactly. Carrie's thought, if only I were the kind of girl who could enjoy it guilt-free, also uses were. Think of the subjunctive like a kind of what-if tense.
Okay.
It has nuance. It signals we're in the realm of the unreal, or the desired but not actual. It emphasizes the hypothetical nature, that it's not the current reality.
And then there are those moments in Carrie's narration that are almost like snapshots. A dress, champagne, a man who disappears. Your analysis calls this ellipsis and sentence fragments, used for style.
Yes. And what's so effective is how omitting the usual grammatical structure actually heightens the emotional impact. It creates a very specific narrative rhythm.
It mirrors her fragmented thought.
Exactly. Her sense of shock, disbelief. Another example is no explanation, no goodbye, just silence. It have that same abrupt, impactful feeling.
So the fragmented sentences after the architect leaves sort of mirror her emotional state.
And the shattered cultural expectations of that charming European lover trope we talked about.
It's like the grammar itself is adding to the emotional tone, drawing you in. Okay, what about relative clauses? Like in Amelita, who never paid for anything herself, insisted we go shopping.
Yes, the phrase, "who never paid for anything herself," is a non-defining relative clause. It adds extra information about Amelita, but information that isn't essential to know who we're talking about.
Okay.
Contrast that with something like, "The architect who bought me dinner vanished the next day." There, "who bought me dinner" is essential. It defines which architect.
Right, it identifies him. So these clauses just add detail and context smoothly.
Very smoothly.
And for moments of speculation, deduction, the episode uses modal verbs.
Precisely. When Carrie says about the disappearing architect, he must have had an emergency, or maybe he just changed his mind.
Must and maybe showing guesses?
Exactly. Must shows a strong logical guess, while might, in maybe, shows possibility. Other examples might be he could be married, he might not even live in New York. They express different degrees of certainty or possibility.
Got it. And the way the story unfolds also relies on shifts in tense, right? Narrative tense shifts.
Absolutely. Carrie's narration often moves between simple past, past perfect, sometimes even present tense for immediacy.
Your notes had a great example. He kissed my hand like in an old movie. I had never felt so flattered.
Right. The shift to past perfect, had never felt, emphasizes that feeling occurred during that specific past event.
And when I woke up, he had already left. Same thing.
Exactly. Past perfect shows an action completed before another past action, waking up.
Okay. And then there are those little tag questions people throw in, like Amelita saying, "You love this dress, don't you?"
The tag questions, like "don't you," isn't it? They're short questions added to statements, mainly to seek agreement or confirmation.
So it's a way of engaging the other person.
Yeah, engaging the listener, or in this case, Carrie, and sort of expecting a positive response. Like, you wouldn't say no to Paris, would you? Same function. Right. Finally, your analysis touches on that tricky area of gerunds versus infinitives, when to use the ing form versus to plus verb after certain verbs.
Ah, yes, a common challenge for English learners. The episode provides natural examples. Carrie thinks, I considered taking the gift.
So considered takes the ing form, the gerund.
Exactly. But then someone might say he offered to buy me lunch. Offered is followed by an infinitive to buy.
Okay.
The key takeaway, really, is just that certain verbs have specific patterns they follow. You kind of just have to learn them.
Wow, okay, so in just this one episode, we've uncovered not only a really interesting layer of American cultural shortcuts, but also a surprising amount of sophisticated grammar at work.
Yeah,
It really makes you appreciate how much thought goes into crafting even what seems like casual dialogue.
it truly does. Understanding these cultural references and grammatical choices, it doesn't just enrich your viewing experience, right?
No, it gives you valuable insights into both American culture and, I guess, the subtle power of the English language itself. It's a great reminder that there's often so much more happening beneath the surface than we might initially notice.
Here's a synopsis of Sex and the City. Season 1. Episode 5. The Power of Female Sex. Carrie explores the complex relationship between sex and power after reconnecting with her glamorous and mysterious friend Amelita, who lives a luxurious life funded by wealthy men. Intrigued and slightly envious, Carrie finds herself swept into a world of expensive dinners and designer gifts when she meets a charming French architect named Gillis. Their night together leaves her with a $400 pair of shoes and an unexpected realization about the blurred lines between independence, intimacy, and transactional relationships. Meanwhile, Charlotte tries to understand the allure of casual sex but ends up overwhelmed by her emotions. Through it all, Carrie questions whether accepting gifts or experiences from men comes with hidden expectations, and what it really means to own your power as a woman in New York City.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy learning new words, phrases, grammar, and cultural references from Sex and the City. I will be back with the next lesson soon. Until then, bye.